What do you get when you cross an ornithological disaster with a tall, leggy blonde and a bulbous Englishman? Stay tuned. Coming attractions. We'll be right back. I'm Joseph Piper. Hi, I'm Joseph Piper. Welcome to Coming Attractions. My guest today is Bruce Crawford, and we're going to talk about, this will be his 35th, right?
Yes.
35th annual.
Biannual.
Biannual, because there's always 2 a year. So it's been 16, 17 years?
Actually been 22 years.
It's been 22 years, but it's the 35th event.
Yeah.
He will be screening the classic The Birds by Alford Hitchcock on November 7th. That's a Friday at 7 p.m. at Jocelyn Art Museum, 2200 Dodge Street. Tickets are $23, available at all Omaha Hy-Vee locations and only Omaha Hy-Vee,
Yes,
correct?
Yes, yes.
Customer service counters, they begin to go on sale October 15th. This is a benefit for the Nebraska Kidney Association, and if you need more information after the show, you can call 402-932-7200. At the event will be the very special guest, the star of the film, actress Tippi Hedren, and artist Nicolosi will unveil a commemorative U.S. postal envelope honoring the film. And if you come and you buy an envelope, or you buy envelopes, you can get those autographed by Tippi Hedren and Nicolosi. So again, the event is November 7th, 7 p.m., Jocelyn Art Museum. And I want to welcome Bruce and his guests, Tim Neal from the Kidney Association. And this is, how many times have you done this with Bruce, one of these?
This will be number 15.
Number 15?
Out of 35.
I didn't know it was that many, out of 35? Wow, okay.
The magic works.
The magic works, I guess. So Bruce, Tippi Hedren's coming to Omaha.
Yeah, she's got quite a few stories to tell about this, you can imagine.
Well, there's quite a lot written about
There's
this.
been quite a bit written about it, yes.
And some of it's pretty dicey.
Racy.
I was looking up some things, and I thought we'd just start. There was a couple quotes I thought kind of opened up a discussion about this. One was in the Village Voice by Jay Hoberman. It was written in October, I guess, of 2012. Hitch's much misappreciated follow-up to Psycho, which this was. It was this
Yes.
film right after Psycho, is arguably the greatest of all disaster films, a triumph of special effects, as well as the fountainhead of what has become known as gross-out horror. How do you react to that?
Well, I don't know about I'd go quite that far. 1963, there wasn't much as far as gross out in motion pictures. You know, there was quite a bit more restraint, and production code was still pretty well enforced at that point. But I think the point he's trying to make is what's the horror of it is it's with Hitchcock, as always with Hitchcock, it's mostly in your mind.
Right.
He shows you just enough to scare you, then your brain fills in the blanks.
Right.
Like in Psycho, like in so many of the films he made like that, and even Rear Window, where you don't see anything, but you know it.
You know, this was based on Daphne du
Maurier.
Maurier, who wrote Rebecca.
Yes.
Was this written in the time Rebecca was written?
I think it was just not too long after that. You know, this was only made 19 years after Rebecca, or 18 years after Rebecca. So it's not that far removed from Rebecca, in less than 2 decades, actually.
And originally, I guess the production designer, Robert Boyle, he saw it originally as a mood piece, and then they brought in the screenwriter, Evan Hunter, and he kind of put this screwball comedy spin on the beginning of it, at least, or a little bit.
You might say that.
And I guess it was the hardest picture that Hitchcock ever did. He hated location shooting, but he loved preparation, and preparation was the most important part of it to him.
And I think this film has more location than anything he's ever done, because it's almost strictly, and part of it is in San Francisco, just a small part. But the bulk of it is in Bodega Bay, which is a real location, a real place.
But the star, I mean, another star of the picture really is all the matte work, the artists.
Oh, Albert Whitlock, yeah, his paintings, matte paintings are just breathtaking. They look so real, you know, you never know they were special effects.
Well, I read that there are 371 trick shots in the movie, and there are the last shot where they leave the house.
Right.
I mean, everybody I'm sure has seen this, so it's not a huge surprise, but when they leave the house, according to what has been written, that was the most difficult shot. And the mat effects used 32 pieces of film
I know, to combine it all
to
together.
combine all that together.
Because the car's driving off in the distance by the bay, and you can see all the birds in the distance and around it. And, they asked Hitchcock too, Joe, that why does it end there? Because it ends so, it leaves you hanging, like, it doesn't say the end, it just stops. And he said, well, the next shot would have to show 50,000 birds on the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah,
It'd be a
that
little difficult.
He told Peter Bogdanovich that in an interview, that was one of his ideas for the ending. There's another bit written, and this was an Andrew Saris from, I'm not sure if that's the Village Voice, but he had said the theme is complacency, and that Hitchcock even mentioned that on several occasions, that as in Psycho, he succeeds in implicating his audience to such an extent that the much criticized, apparently anticlimactic ending of the film finds the audience more bloodthirsty than the birds.
People want to see more. It leaves you wanting more. And I think he left them wanting. That's became his trademark.
So what, I was thinking, to me it's like almost a science fiction movie.
Well, it's a precursor for Jaws.
Okay.
Let's face it. That's really what it is, because Hitchcock's technique was totally borrowed by Spielberg. A lot of
Did
it was.
Spielberg, does he admit that?
Oh,
that he
absolutely.
okay.
Oh, yeah. Jaws is a homage to Hitchcock, and particularly the birds. It's man against nature,
Uh-huh.
and nature wins. Except for the birds, we think they might win, but we don't know for sure.
And then in the Peter Bogdanovich interview, he'd said something to, Hitchcock said to him something about, it's about the fact that people take things for granted.
Yeah, that could be true. You don't think of the birds out there, that we see them every day, they're part of our everyday lives, but you don't think of them as something that could be such a threat to you and threat to mankind. So yeah, that could be very well be true.
Now, there's so many interesting things about the film. One is that there's no music, background music
Right.
whatsoever.
Bernard
But it
Herrmann,
is said that Bernard Herrmann had a lot of influence on the sound. So how would you say Bernard Herrmann influenced the soundtrack for this?
Well, see, what they did was they went to, Hitchcock and Herrmann in 1962, when the film was in production, they went to Germany. A fellow named Remy Gossman. He developed a form of like a mellotron or a synthesizer, we call them
Okay.
today, and made electronic tonalities and weird sounds and such. And they wanted to hear what this thing sounded like, because they made really unusual sounds, and they were able to recreate kind of like bird screeches and cries, but just a little bit offbeat, not your typical bird sound, but still identifiable, but still weird. And Herrmann went with this and said, this is great. He never would have normally agreed to not having music to a movie, because he thought films suffer without it. But Hitchcock had him work with him, Gossman, for the sound effects, and he put the sound effects in musically, in the sense that there would be music.
Right.
He put the bird sounds in, and it wasn't melodic like a melody, but it went high and low and high and low to kind of give that effect of a musical impact. And so Herrmann was very instrumental in creating that sound. I should call it a sound score.
So did Bernard Herrmann say to Hitchcock, I don't want to do a musical track? for
No,
this?
Hitchcock asked him, I think, would it be a good idea not to, and the one and only time in his career where he said, yes, this might work well, fine, but he goes, but he wanted to be a part of all the sound, all the sound effects, not just the birds, but everything. So it almost has I can't quite describe, it's not musical, but it works like music, because the sound effects of the birds, they sound familiar to you, but they're not really the same thing you'd hear from a bird, because it's disturbing.
Okay. So I saw a lot of things in this film that seemed to, there's a lot of things that parallels to Psycho to me.
Oh, sure.
You have this character, Melanie, and she's a bad girl. She's a kind of a reckless girl, spontaneous. She lies in the movie. She's a liar. She lies to the character Mitch, manipulates. And so Marion Crane was sort of a little bit like that too. She was pushing the envelope,
Right.
being a little bit reckless in the movie.
Well, she was a criminal,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
But in this case, Tippi Hedren's character, she is a spoiled rich girl, and she gets what she wants, and she wants Rod Taylor.
Right. But like she walks into their house when she, at one point, just walks into their house.
Well, she's
I thought that
very-
was a very bold kind of
That's a character.
criminal almost kind
Well,
of
yeah, trespassing
thing to
anyway,
do. The mother, played by Jessica Tandy, talks about fairness a lot in this movie, especially in the beginning when she's introduced, and democracy, yet she's very quick to judge Melanie.
It's an interesting story in the sense that besides the birds and the scariness of that, you have the mother whose husband died some time ago, and the son, Rod Taylor, and then the Veronica Cartwright's the younger daughter. That's the dynamic there. It's not like really a soap opera, but it's like Rod Taylor's character kind of fills in for his dad a lot, and when another woman comes in, it kind of threatens the mom. And that happens in real life, too.
Right. So there's that whole sort of
Yeah.
sub-story going on.
A little bit, yeah.
But there's a lot of weird sort of humor in it, too. First of all, I think it's very funny when she's driving in Bodega Bay, she has these lovebirds in this cage. And it makes me Saturday Night Live because as she turns the curves, the birds sway on the thing like this.
Oh, yeah.
And I just kept thinking it's like SNL
When they're turning, the birds
humor.
move this way, she turns out they move that way.
Yeah.
It's funny. Another part that's funny, too, in the movie is when she goes to, at the beginning part, where she's going to Rod Taylor's apartment. And she wants to leave the birds there.
Right.
And there's, in the hallway, across the way, is Richard Deacon, who played Lumpy Rutherford's father in Leave It to Beaver. He's a kind of a comedic character.
He's
and
a great character
And also
actor,
on
yeah.
Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah.
So it does have that kind of a comedy at the beginning, like you said, Madcap. A little bit of that at the very beginning.
And that's an odd scene because you're kind of wondering what he's all about in a way because he's
Yeah.
just this odd character. And I think you do that a lot with Hitchcock's characters. You wonder,
There's a lot of odd
they're
characters.
presented to you in a way that makes you like wonder, there's something mysterious about them. There's also a fried chicken joke in the restaurant in the middle of all this chaos of the birds attacking.
I think the cook, the waitress yells out, or the cook yells out, fried chicken ready for number 3.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, the birds are attacking the restaurant.
Now, there's also some other things. Like there's a sequence in the restaurant when the birds attack the guy at the gas pump.
Yeah.
And the camera's looking up at the window of everybody gathered at the window. And there's like these freeze frame shots of Melanie's face.
Yeah, they are
and
free frames. They're
expression.
staggered, left, right, center. Left, center, right.
Was that unusual?
That's montage. That goes back to the silent era. That goes back to Eisenstein and Battleship Potemkin, that kind of a thing. Where you have one shot of her startled, and it shows the flame going up. Another shot of her startled in the middle, and the flame going up the street. Then another shot of her looking this way with her face startled. And boom, boom, boom. It's very strange.
Yeah, it is very
But
strange.
you don't forget it.
But you didn't see that in pictures then as a typical
No, that was
device
a throwback to
tell
1915.
Yeah.
that was
Well,
way-
even though when the birds attack the children, it's like that too, sort of like the steps in the
Yeah.
Russian.
Well, when they're running on the street.
battleship,
yeah.
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 Let's see, toward the end. Okay, so when she goes to investigate the attic at the end,
Oh,
that reminds me of
That's scary.
Marion Crane's sister going down into the basement at the end of Psycho.
Well, going to the attic in Psycho, too. She went to the
Yeah.
attic first, then she went
Right.
down
It's just this very
the cellar.
tension-filled moment where she goes up there, and then there's the scene where she's attacked by the birds is much like the shower scene in Psycho.
Yeah, it's just unrelenting. But of course, she doesn't get killed. But it's interesting you make that comment about Psycho and the birds. Is that in Psycho, Norman Bates in his parlor has all those stuffed birds. You remember in his
Yeah.
and he relates to people like they're birds. And of course, the shower scene music in Psycho is like squeaking birds. So there's a lot of parallels between the two movies in that regard. That's true.
Is this an odd movie for him to have made in a way?
Well, there's nothing like it before that, and nothing like it since. It was very unusual. It really broke new ground in the sense that I won't say it's necessarily a gross out, except for the scene. I'm sure Tim, you remember the guy with his eyes gone. That's even today. That's still
yeah, that's pretty.
That's a 51-year-old movie. This is not a new movie. This is an older movie. But even can you imagine back then what people thought? It's a little disturbing. It's that staggered boom, 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 like you're talking about with Melanie looking at the fire. Very same thing. It shows the face of the man with his eyes gone. It goes up like that.
Right.
And it's very quick. You do see it, but only for just a few frames. And that might have been jumping the fence there from what was and what was to be in movies, but Hitchcock never would have gone as far as they do today in films, which is total gross out. It's just sickening. But it was for its time, that was kind of pushing the envelope.
There's like I said, there's a lot of matte work in this movie, and they brought in Ub Iwerks from Disney, who had been with Disney forever. And the matte effects, it's really, if you're into the technology of filmmaking, back then they'd done the blue screen
Right.
in movies a lot, but it would always leave like this blue fringe.
Not
sort of.
always. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not always. Not always.
Well, in this one, they brought in the Disney way, which was the sodium traveling matte shot.
Yeah, that's Ray
Where you had
Harryhausen
a-
developed that too with
Okay.
Rank, and that's what they used. Today, of course, they have CGI.
Right.
But what they were able to do, they were like a double exposure, where you would see the fringe lines around people and things, and it worked beautifully on this. And,
Well,
and
there- so
Disney
there-
took it over.
Yeah, there's a
entirely.
yellow background,
Sodium vapor, they call it.
light,
Right.
and then there's a white foreground light because of
Sodium
somehow-
vapor traveling
yeah,
matte.
somehow that makes it work.
It makes an
So look-
instantaneous composites, what it does.
Yeah, it makes it look much more realistic.
It does, and
yeah.
that's why it holds up so well, for 51 years old.
Is the attic attack the most intense sequence of violence in the film?
It might be. I don't know. What do you think the phone booth scene? What'd you think? That's pretty intense.
Well, the phone booth is pretty intense, but
It's not as long though, is it? I mean,
I thought it was just as long. We just watched the clip a little while ago.
yeah, we did. Yeah.
Well, the birds are actually trying to get through her front to the glass. But, I think it's almost a toss-up. But I think in the attic is, well, because there's no one there to help her until the last minute.
right. Is this? And I read about Hitchcock's. Is this or Marnie his most personal film?
Oh, Vertigo's probably his most personal film, I think people would say.
Really?
Yeah, probably Vertigo more than The Obsession and that, probably more so than Marnie or The Birds, just from what I've read and what I've gathered.
So he had a very bizarre relationship with Tippi Hedren.
Well, it sounds like it. It sounds like he did.
She's claimed, that he was
Forward-
sexually
forward to her and suggestive.
Yeah.
And inappropriate.
What is that about with him? What is that? What is the film about? It seems like his expression of some sort of psychosexual feelings about women. I mean, he shows them from the back. Like in Vertigo, there's the blonde hair with the bun in the back.
Yeah.
And in The Birds, there's a scene where Tippy's back is to the camera and her hair is in a sort of a bun, and they kind of focus on that.
Yeah.
And
It's weird.
I mean, what is he dealing with?
He's working
Did he
on
not
issues.
Did he not like women, or?
Well, I think he liked them a lot, especially if they're beautiful tall blondes like Grace Kelly and Kim Novak and Tippi Hedren. I don't know. It's really hard to say. The man's not here to talk to find out. And his daughter's alive, and there's friends and people still living that knew him. He's certainly on tour because that's his vision. That's what he wants to get
it's very
across to you.
personal.
That's very personal. This is how he sees it. And this is how he wants you to understand it. How he wants you to try to hopefully accept it. His vision. I don't know. It's everyone has their own opinions on Hitchcock movies. They all have their own favorites.
But do you
And,
think Tippi Hedren's character is like the most perfected character of his films of the woman?
Well, he tried to control her life quite a bit,
Yeah.
off camera.
I mean,
and
she
on,
was
too.
she had no real career afterwards, correct?
She didn't do a whole lot after. She got involved now with Shambhala, where she's in Los Angeles, where she's involved with wild animals, wild cats particularly, I should say, and tigers and lions, and she's big in animal rights, and she's been involved in that for a long time. Not animal rights so much, but animal safety and animal cruelty prevention, particularly the wild cats, in circuses and zoos, that kind of thing. And she did several films afterwards, but Hitchcock did his best to try to sabotage her career because she referred to his weight one time as an insult in front of everyone when she thought he was being too forward, and that's of course that's common knowledge now, but she speaks highly of the film, and she tries to remember him from the good side. She
Right.
tries to think of the good things.
Well, she went and made Marnie with him, right?
Yeah, she
And
made Marnie
that was
afterwards,
kind of
too.
it, right?
Yeah.
What are some other reasons you brought this one back? I mean,
Well, we've talked about it for a long time, I think,
yeah.
haven't we, over the years?
Yeah.
We have thought about doing The Birds, and and as Tim will tell you, it all depends on my guest and their availability. It's just a matter of fitting things together.
Bruce usually has 3 or 4 things going, and all of a sudden, one of them kind of heats up
Surfaces
a little bit.
to the top of the
Absolutely.
heap.
Cream rising to the top, and
Exactly.
all of a sudden here's the hot iron, and we're going to pursue it.
here was another comment I thought was really interesting. Hitchcock this is Andrew Saris of the Village Voice who made that other comment. Has fashioned a major work of cinematic art, and cinematic is the operative term here, not literary or sociological.
Yeah, it's pure movies. It's pure entertainment. You know
There's-
you're watching a movie.
Right, and there's long stretches of this movie where there's no dialogue.
Yeah, it's just pure visual.
Right, and you
And
gain
sound.
so much of the story just from that too.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's something people have got to see on the big screen. I've never seen it on the big screen.
Well, I haven't either.
Have you, Joe, seen it before? I've never seen it.
I
on the
might
theater.
have, like in college a
Well,
long time
I never
ago.
had the opportunity.
Like, I might have.
So this will be a really unique opportunity for everybody. Plus, it benefits a great charity like.
And this is usually a
Kids
new
Association.
print, right?
Yeah.
And it's, how big is the screen at the Johnson?
Oh, over
I
50
never
feet.
asked you that.
It's over 50 something.
Over 50 feet.
Yeah.
And she will speak at the beginning, correct?
Yep.
And take questions usually from the audience? or
Sometimes. So she will definitely an autograph line, that kind
Mhm.
of a thing.
So there's autograph line, and well, I don't know what else to talk about.
Well, the Kidney Association, I think Tim has a few things to.
Yeah,
what
we
would
can
you
talk
like
a little
to
bit
talk
about that.
Sure.
As the beneficiary of the proceeds, we certainly like to take the opportunity to do some educating of the general public. A lot of people don't realize that 1 in 6 Nebraskans is at risk of developing kidney failure. Basically, if people have diabetes or high blood pressure or those conditions in their families, they need to get it checked out. And we do screenings throughout the state for free.
And drink lots of water.
Drink lots of water, yeah, 6 to 8 glasses of water every
Yeah.
day.
Do the numbers go up every year, or does it kind of stay the same? I mean,
For the most part, seeing the people that are on dialysis, when I started about 14 years ago, there were 800 people on dialysis. Now we're at 1,600, so it's doubled
Wow.
in
Wow.
14 years. And I imagine with childhood obesity and just obesity in general, and there again, cardiovascular disease. A lot of people don't realize that it's the kidneys that are impacting, the heart disease and also.
It's all connected.
Absolutely, the
So-
kidneys are the master chemists of the body.
how long has dialysis been around?
Since the 50s.
And there's never been anything new on that front?
Oh yeah, actually in the 50s, they used to have committees to decide who actually got to receive dialysis and
Wow.
who didn't.
So it's more available now? But
Absolutely.
as far as the technology, there's been nothing advanced?
Oh no, there has been.
Okay.
There's people that can do things at home through peritoneal dialysis, or
Okay.
they even have hemodialysis at home that they can do every day. And actually, those people do very well.
With an regular, pretty
Yeah,
close to
absolutely.
normal.
If they're doing in-center hemodialysis, they're usually in the clinic 3 times a week, 4 to 4.5 hours each time. Basically afterwards they feel like crud, and then the next day they feel great.
Great.
And then they're back in again, and so it repeats. And there again, if they can do that at home, the regularity, they feel a whole lot better. It's more of a plateau this way versus this.
Right.
And that's why dialysis is not for wimps. So if we can do things on the preventative end of things, and hopefully people can either avoid or prolong the onset of kidney failure.
Kidney disease is not something that's hereditary then? It's something.
Oh yeah, it's very
it's
hereditary. With diabetes
But you
and
can
hypertension.
You can avoid it though?
Yeah, you can. If you know your
Even
numbers.
if it's hereditary?
You can.
Okay.
There again, a lot of, you think a few years ago people didn't know what their cholesterol level was.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you go to the doctor, what's my cholesterol doing now? They have a similar number. It's
Test rate.
called GFR, or glomerular filtration rate. It's how well your kidneys are filtering the blood and doing those things. Now, when people go into the doctor or they do one of our screenings, we can tell them, your GFR is above 60, so that means it's okay. It means you're in stage 1. They got 5 stages of kidney disease. If it's less than 60, you're going to be in stage 3 or 4. Stage 5 means that your kidney function is down to about 10%, and you're on dialysis.
Can you reverse kidney
No, you
disease?
can't. You can't.
So once you start having it,
You have to live with it.
Absolutely.
it gets worse then? It doesn't just stay?
Unfortunately, as we age, we lose about 1% of our kidney function every year. So, there are people that are younger. There again, untreated diabetes, untreated hypertension impacts the kidneys even more. Or elderly, especially, someone who's got high blood pressure and they're getting, diabetes as well. It's kind of like, and their kidney function is going down. It can hit them, especially, if they're not aware.
Sure.
If someone, if we can catch them in stage 3 or stage 4, they can do some things. And we've had people come through our screenings where blood sugar normal is 100 or less, and they're at 400.
Wow.
We've had a couple of them that were at 350, and the guy at 400 said, let's take him to the ER, you've got diabetes.
Oh, jeez.
The ones at 350, I stopped taking my medications, and, I should probably do that. Or we've caught some people at screenings, and, your blood pressure's a little high. Is that normally? Well, yeah, but I should probably get back on my pills. They're not, and they're again, for financial reasons, sometimes people do that, and it doesn't help, let's put it that way.
And when we do these events, and Tim works with me, it gives him a platform, not that he doesn't already have platforms, but it's an extra platform to a large audience that may not think about that when they come in to see the movie and to see a guest, that someone may go home that night or contact your group later because they have things that have that affected them, and they
Right.
realize they got something wrong with their body, and they have to look into it. I was going to ask you too another thing. I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind me asking him, is what's the donors like? Is there a lot of donors out there? Is there a long list to get for people to get?
Well, you know,
Transplants?
unfortunately, you know, there's 123,000 people nationally waiting for a life-saving transplant. You know, we
Jeez.
work with kidney patients, whether it's someone waiting for a transplant or people on dialysis or somewhere in between. In Nebraska, I just looked today, 441 people waiting for a life-saving transplant. There's
Jeez.
221 that are waiting for either a kidney or kidney pancreas transplant. So that's typical. It's over half in Nebraska all the time.
What's the waiting list for people? I mean,
It depends.
Oh.
Usually it's probably 3 to 5 years waiting for a kidney from a
Jeez.
deceased donor. That's why you're seeing living related and living non-related people saying, hey, I need a kidney. You know, I don't want to do dialysis anymore. Please get tested. And people respond to that.
you hear that a lot where people donate a kidney.
And there again, a deceased kidney is okay, but I'll tell you what, someone
live
from
donor's
a
better,
living
yeah.
donor, especially when you talk about the time from this donor here to the recipient, and if
minutes.
it goes from one room to the next,
Yeah.
boom, you know, it is just awesome.
Well, this is a great way to keep it in people's mind to be aware of that and
Yeah.
to look into it. And it's a nice way to do it.
Well, it's a way
I mean, to have an
you know,
event where you can, you know,
enjoy the event,
enjoy
but also
the event, but also be aware of
what,
something
what it's benefiting.
is
you know?
what it benefits. So, again, I want to thank you both again for being here
Great to
today.
be on,
It's
as
always
always.
great.
Yep.
I'll repeat for you again. This will be Friday, November 7th, 35th Classic Film Event. Alford Hitchcock's The Bird. Special guest star Tippi Hedren. Artist Nicolosi will unveil a commemorative U.S. postal envelope that honors the film. And you can purchase those envelopes and have them signed, autographed by Miss Hedren and Nicolosi. And that is at 7 p.m., Jocelyn Art Museum, Witherspoon Hall. It's still called the Witherspoon Hall,
Yes,
isn't it?
yep.
2200 Dodge Street. Tickets are $23, available at all Omaha Hy-Vee food stores at the customer service counter October 15th. And it's a benefit for the Nebraska Kidney Association. And if you want more information, call 402-932-7200. We're going to close the program with some great clips from the movie, and we will see you there. Thanks again for joining me on Coming Attractions. I'm Joseph Piper.
She combed her hair